Okay, let's take a look at this example. F of x equal negative x squared plus 4x plus 1. It's one that's in that other format where we can't do our shifting and reflecting to graph it and get the vertex. We have to use the negative b over 2a. So let's get started first noting how it's going to open. And since there's a negative in front, it's going to open down. And what does that tell me about my vertex? It's going to be a max. Let's actually work on finding the vertex. Well, I can't grab the h and k like I did on the previous ones, so I have to find the x coordinate first by calculating negative b over 2a. b is a positive 4, so negative b will be a negative 4. 2 times a will be 2 times negative 1. The arithmetic gives me negative 4 over negative 2, which is 2. There's the first coordinate for my vertex. But I have to find his partner, and I find it by plugging in a 2 everywhere I have an x. So the partner to this will be a negative, plugging in the 2, 2 squared, plus 4 times 2, plus 1. So this will be 4 plus negative 4 plus 8 plus 1, which ends up being 5, doing the arithmetic. So I have a vertex at 2, 5. Now let's find the y-intercept. Remember, to find the y-intercept, we let the x's be 0. So I'm going to plug in a 0 everywhere I have an x in my function. So it will be minus 0 squared plus 4 times 0 plus 1, which actually is just going to give me 1. So the y-intercept is 0, 1. Well, let's stop here and assess the situation like I mentioned earlier. Well, I need to find x-intercepts. So let's plot the vertex at 2, 5 here. And I have a y-intercept at 0, 1. And this thing is opening downward. Notice, because it's opening down, there are some x-intercepts that I'm going to need to find, so we'll have to get in to find those. And remember, to find the x-intercepts, we let f of x be equal to 0. So I'm going to take that quadratic, minus x squared plus 4x plus 1, set it equal to 0, and work on solving it. Well, this one's not as easy as the previous one to solve that was in that other format. This one I'm going to have to use the quadratic formula because it doesn't factor. Remember, that's always your safety net. If you have a quadratic that doesn't factor, you have to use the quadratic formula. So let's recall that. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that's all divided by 2 times a. That's what we'll have to use to find the x-intercepts. So let's see what negative b is going to be. Since b is a positive 4, negative b will be a negative 4. Plus or minus the square root. Since b is a 4, b squared will be 16 minus 4 times a, which is negative 1, times c, which is 1. And this is all over 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. Now we need to clean this up. First, let's work on the inside of the radical. I'll end up with 16 plus 4, which is 20. And from your work, you have to remember how to reduce radicals. The square root of 20 is the same thing as 4 times 5, which reduces to 2 square roots of 5. So this expression is looking like negative 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 5 over 2. And there's another technique you should know. It's reducing this result when they're all divisible by the same number, the quantities I've circled. When they're all divisible by the same number, we need to divide those out. So if I divide everybody by 2, that will give me a negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 5. Okay? Well, I really don't know where those values are. I'm going to have to use my calculator to help me figure out where those values are. So let me pull up the calculator. Man, there's just something I'm thinking about. Here's my mistake. I knew I made a mistake somewhere. 2 times a would be 2 times negative 1. This would be a negative 2 down here. Sorry about that. I knew something wasn't right. Negative 4 times divided by negative 2 is a positive 2. So you may have caught that before I did, but I caught it when I realized what type of values I was going to be obtaining on my calculator. So sorry, it's not negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 5. That denominator should have been a negative 2, so it's 2 plus or minus the square root of 5. Now we need to find out what those values are so we'll know where to place them on the graph. So pull out your calculator and let's do 2 plus square root of 5 which will give me 4.23, and let's figure out the other one. 2 minus square root of 5. It's given me my x-intercepts based on the quadratic formula, which is a negative 0.23. Now I can take these and estimate them. The 2 plus or minus square root of 5, I had no idea where they were, but the calculator now tells me where they are, so I've got a negative 0.23, which is approximately here, and a 4.23, which is approximately here, and everything lines up with the vertex, the y-intercept, and now my x-intercepts. So I can draw a nice smooth parabola through those points. That vertex, we said, is a max because it opens down. So you need to know the quadratic formula. You got to pull that thing back out of the recesses of your mind. I'm trying to clean this up and I'm messing it up. I couldn't read that. Okay, so we have to pull out the quadratic formula, do some simplifying on that. So a lot of skills here you may have forgotten that you'll need to practice up on.